This is your Weather Xtreme video for Sunday, February the 12th. I'm meteorologist Brian Peters, and special thanks to Colonel Sanders for filling in yesterday and helping out with the Weather Xtreme video. Well, it's a cold morning out there this morning. Temperatures generally around the 20-degree mark, a few a little cooler than that. Let's take a look at our Skycam network, and there's a look at Birmingham. We're seeing a little bit of filtering of the sun through some high cirrus clouds that we observed on the satellite picture last night, and a beautiful shot as we look down across the Tombigbee River at Demopolis, looking off to the west, and you can see those high cirrus clouds a little thicker over on the horizon over southern Mississippi. High pressure at the surface is maintaining its hold on the pattern across the southeastern U.S., and of course that's partially allowing us to be pretty chilly this morning. It is rather cold across the midsection of the country, minus values up there around the Dakotas, and a few minus values stretching down into the western sections of Iowa and the eastern sections of Nebraska. So you can see the real cold. I'd say probably a good 80% of the country below the 32-degree mark. And we're certainly below the 32-degree mark. You can see the observations at the various airport locations, most of them somewhere in the vicinity of the 20-degree mark. Across the vast United States, we're getting ready for the next weather system. All that purple you see out there to our west is a number of winter weather advisories as we see a storm system come out, and it's going to be producing a good deal of wintry precipitation, but only to the advisory category. And of course, what that means is primarily an inconvenience. The Hydrometeorological Prediction Center, HPC, forecasting on the order of about a little over 2 inches across the Gulf Coast, with that tapering off to the north. And I think for us, primarily in the Monday night, Tuesday time frame, that, and of course this goes through Friday, so this also takes into account the next event on Thursday, or primarily Thursday, a late Wednesday night and into Thursday event. So I think we'll probably be seeing on the order of a total accumulation of about probably 1 inch across our area. For day 2, there are no organized severe thunderstorms being forecast, but SPC has drawn an area around much of the southeastern U.S., including Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, East Texas, and parts of southern Arkansas, where there is a possibility for thunder. All right, the 06Z GFS model run, and there's our surface high coming in, centered a little bit to the west of Memphis, kind of between Memphis and Little Rock for this afternoon. We have a little short wave that is kicking out of the Rockies on Monday, and that will be responsible for producing some weather. Now, when you take a look at these values, you'd say, well, the 540 line is certainly a pretty good distance to the north, and indeed it is. However, keep in mind that the thickness value is not absolutely perfect in forecasting the rain or snow line. It's a guideline that we use. Let's take an intermediate time, and this is at 00Z on the 14th, which puts it at 6 p.m. On Monday. And you can see a good deal of precipitation from Arkansas down into the Houston area and the northwestern Gulf of Mexico. Now, if we zoom in and take a look at the 850 temperatures, you're going to see that indeed, even across the northern sections of Alabama, there is a possibility that we may see a little bit of precipitation that could be in the form of a wintry mix. Looks like maybe a little sleet, but primarily a rain-snow mix right now. Let's take a look at the RPM model, and this is for 03Z on the 14th, so this is 9 p.m., and indeed you can see just across, especially just north of the Tennessee River or along the Alabama-Tennessee line, you can see that wintry mix. I don't think it's going to cause any problems. The ground is too warm. And then if we get to by 9Z, which is, 3 o'clock in the morning, all the precipitation is pretty much in the form of rain over the state of Alabama. Now let's get back to the main GFS, and here comes on Wednesday. Here comes another trough. So I think we'll dry out Wednesday primarily, But here comes another trough coming out of the Rockies, and that indeed going to be responsible for another round of precipitation. And once again, it looks like the timing will be such that the precipitation for central Alabama will come late in the day Wednesday, probably after dark, and then primarily before sunrise on Thursday. The little shortwave makes its way up to the eastern Great Lakes pretty quickly, but you notice we're beginning to carve out a little bit of a longer wave trough over the eastern half of the country. And so we're seeing some colder air migrating into the state, migrating into the United States, and you can see the 540 line coming down to the northern Oklahoma there. The surface low, according to the GFS, will be in the vicinity of Detroit, or at least the eastern Great Lakes, with a cold front stretching down into the central Gulf. Now, there are some differences here. The European is not quite as strong with the low, and they seem to be a little more aggressive with the precipitation, although they're certainly in closer agreement today than they were yesterday. So that's always a confidence builder. The long wave trough position seems to have been carved out over the eastern U.S. Now, this is not the look we were seeing yesterday. We were seeing a much milder look, and that indeed, you see the 540 line down to just a little bit north of Memphis. So certainly on Friday, we're not going to be extremely cold, but we'll be at least cooler, something closer to our typical values for this time of year. The flow becomes a little bit more zonal for this southern tier of the United States on Saturday, a week from yesterday, but we do have a little short wave moving across South Texas, and that short wave going to be responsible for some precipitation over the state of Texas and down into the Gulf Coast region, especially Louisiana. Looks like, though, at this point, while we may see some clouds, it looks like we stay dry. And even the European, it's not in good agreement, but this is at the same time, and you can see it's much faster with the precipitation, moving it basically over to Florida. So some timing differences between the models. Back to the GFS, and by Sunday the 19th, we're basically coming under a ridge, and so we're going to at least look like we're going to warm up for the short term as we get under that southwesterly flow. And indeed, by this time, the GFS has now got the precipitation where the European had it for yesterday or for the Saturday. So certainly some model differences when you get further out there, but then that's not something you don't expect to see. So something we see quite often. Going out into voodoo country, it still looks like around the 21st we'll see a rather wet event, and kind of an interesting look to that wet event with perhaps some wintry precipitation across the Central Plains states. We do see, though, a different look. Remember yesterday I was talking about the trends, and certainly the trend in the GFS yesterday was for warm weather. Now it's looking like not quite as warm, certainly not especially cold, but we are carving out a longer wave trough across much of the whole country. And then by the very end of the period, that has a much colder look to it, because if you follow those contours back from, say, northern Tennessee, if you follow those back, they go back to the Dakotas, and then from the Dakotas, they go back up into Alaska, and you know how cold it's been up in Alaska. Well, thanks for tuning into the Weather Xtreme video. I expect James Spann will be back with the next edition first thing tomorrow morning. In the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful Sunday and a great upcoming week. Godspeed.
Thank you for trusting us to be your #1 source for news
in all of Central Alabama.
in back-to-back ratings periods.
More people watched ABC 3340
than any other station in Birmingham.